The life insurance policy had been a gift from my uncle, not for a birthday or a holiday, but for passing the bar exam. 3 years ago, when I officially became a licensed attorney in Washington, D.C., my Uncle Harold handed me a thick white envelope during dinner at Founding Farmers. It wasn't a card, or money, or one of his usual jokes. Inside was a full-term life insurance policy, $500,000 coverage. You're stepping into a career where you'll be making enemies, sometimes without even realizing it, he said, serious for once. Smart people don't wait for problems before they plan. This policy is a foundation. Take it seriously. At the time, I thought it was a little dramatic, but I appreciated it. Harold had always been the quiet protector in our family, the one who never judged and never boasted, but always watched. Still, my older sister Nicole laughed when she heard about it later. Life insurance? She scoffed, wine glass in hand during one of our family dinners in Silver Spring. You're single, no kids. That's for people with actual responsibilities. What's next? Writing a will for your cat? My parents weren't quite as blunt, but they didn't exactly disagree either. Honey, you're barely 30. Why tie yourself to a long-term policy? Seems like overkill when you don't even own property yet. Probably just Harold being Harold, Dad added, flipping through the policy paperwork I'd left on the counter. But I kept the policy. I paid the premiums like clockwork, $37 a month. And every time the renewal came around, I updated my contact information, reviewed the beneficiaries, and locked the paperwork back in my file cabinet at my apartment in Foggy Bottom. What they didn't know, what I couldn't tell them, was that I wasn't just some public defender or low-level legal analyst in a think tank like they assumed. I worked for the Treasury Department, specifically the Office of Terrorism and Financial Intelligence. My job involved investigating financial fraud tied to national security threats, cybercriminals, and illicit funding operations. I had been part of a task force that traced dark money through cryptocurrency accounts back to Eastern European shell companies. I'd helped uncover a 7-figure embezzlement ring hiding in the contracting budgets of a federal agency. But to my family, I was still the baby sister who worked in government law, or whatever that means, as Nicole liked to phrase it, especially when introducing me to her finance world friends. Nicole, 34, was a VP at a real estate investment firm in Georgetown. She drove a new Mercedes and posted LinkedIn updates every other week about leveraging networks and scaling impact. She also made it very clear that she viewed my life as mildly amusing at best and underwhelming at worst. 8 months ago, her firm went under. Not a quiet restructuring, a full-blown financial implosion. SEC investigations, allegations of investor fraud, civil suits. Nicole didn't talk about it much, but we all saw the signs. Her texts became short. She canceled brunches, and she moved out of her luxury apartment in DuPont Circle and back into our parents' place in Bethesda. At first, I felt bad for her. She was always proud, too proud, and watching her unravel publicly was hard. But that sympathy began to shift when the phone call started. Can you cover my Amex minimum this month? I need help with rent, just until the lawsuit clears. Can you co-sign a private loan, just to show I have collateral? I said no every time. Gently, at first, then firmly. My salary, while decent, wasn't made for bailing out someone whose entire lifestyle had been funded by quarterly bonuses and unsustainable credit lines. That's when the pressure started building. Not just from Nicole, my parents began weighing in too. Just until she gets back on her feet, Mom urged on Sunday over dinner. She was always there for you growing up. You can't turn your back now, Dad reminded me. They didn't know she'd already borrowed $5,000 from me a year prior and never paid it back. They didn't know I'd co-signed a car lease she later defaulted on, which tanked my credit score for nearly a year. But what made everything worse? what turned frustration into dread was when she started asking about the life insurance policy again. At first, it was subtle. "Hey, that insurance policy Uncle Harold gave you, do you even still have that? Isn't that just wasted money every month?" Then came the more pointed conversations. "If you made me your beneficiary, you'd at least know the money would go to someone who'd use it wisely. You don't have kids. You don't even have a partner. It's basically just sitting there doing nothing. It's not like you're in a dangerous job. You sit in meetings and read spreadsheets." I never told her what I actually did. Never explained how those spreadsheets were financial tracing documents tied to international sanctions or cyber finance terrorism. I never told her I was sitting across from men twice my age who had laundered millions through blockchain and now wore $5 suits in interrogation rooms. I always just smiled, changed the subject, moved on. But 3 weeks ago, I got a call from Mutual First National, the company that held my policy. "Miss Jordan, we're just confirming the recent beneficiary change you requested." My heart froze. "What change?" "Your policy's primary beneficiary was updated from your estate to Nicole Jordan. You spoke with our service center last Thursday to make that adjustment." "I absolutely did not." "Oh, I see. Well, the call was verified with your full social security number, birth date, and policy information." "I never made that call." Silence. The kind of silence where both people on the line suddenly understand that something is deeply wrong. And then, "Would you like to initiate a fraud investigation?" I didn't hesitate. That night, I went home and combed through every file, every account, every login history. I pulled my credit reports. I ran a security scan on my devices. Everything else was untouched. Just the life insurance policy. That one policy she'd been fixated on. I stayed up all night drafting a formal report. I included every detail, every previous conversation, every time she'd mentioned the policy, the timeline of her financial collapse, her access to my documents from years ago. Even a photo of the envelope Harold had given me, still in my file cabinet. The next morning, I walked into work and requested a sit-down with my division's assistant general counsel. I laid out everything, not as a sister, but as a federal attorney submitting evidence for a fraud investigation. Because here's the thing about people like Nicole. They believe they're smarter than the system until the system turns out to be their sibling. The internal wheels turned faster than I expected. By Wednesday, Mutual First National had flagged the audio of the call. Their compliance team reviewed it and immediately escalated the issue. The voice on the recording was clearly Nicole's, not mine. She'd called from what sounded like a quiet office, spoke clearly, and answered every identity verification question without hesitation. Policy number, social security, date of birth, last payment date. She had them all. And then she'd requested the change. Calmly, methodically. "I'd like to update the primary beneficiary on this policy. Please remove the estate and list Nicole Jordan as the sole recipient."
The insurance rep confirmed it, and just like that, she'd stolen financial control of a $500,000 policy. Back at the Treasury Department, I met with Compliance Director Marvin Fields and a senior investigator named Dana Weller. They reviewed everything I'd compiled and listened to the call twice. She knew exactly what she was doing, Weller said, leaning back in her chair. No hesitation, no confusion. This wasn't a mistake. Fields nodded. "We've got identity theft, misrepresentation, and wire fraud. And she used an interstate phone system to complete the deception, which brings it squarely under federal jurisdiction." I knew all of that already. I also knew that under Title 18 of the U.S. Code, wire fraud alone carries a sentence of up to 20 years in federal prison. Identity theft adds a mandatory minimum of 2 to 5 years, depending on aggravating factors. What I didn't know, what I couldn't reconcile, was how my own sister had crossed a line so cleanly, so completely, without even attempting to hide it. It wasn't desperate, it was deliberate. "What's your preference for how this proceeds?" Fields asked. I hesitated. "I want this documented and prosecuted like any other financial crime." He studied me for a second. "No special handling because she's family?" "Family didn't seem to be a factor when she impersonated me," I said quietly. And just like that, the process began. The next day, the Bureau of Financial Fraud Enforcement was looped in. Mutual First National submitted their official fraud report, complete with audio recordings, call logs, and internal memos. By Friday, federal investigators had obtained her phone records. Nicole had used the VoIP system from a WeWork location she'd recently rented, a single-desk setup she was using to freelance while looking for full-time employment. The timestamp matched, the IP address matched, the recorded voice matched. The beneficiary form submitted via email afterward had come from her personal Gmail account, signed, dated, digital fingerprinted. The evidence was airtight. And still, part of me hoped she'd admit it, apologize before things moved too far. That weekend, I drove to Bethesda for what I knew would be a difficult conversation. When Nicole opened the door to our parents' house, she looked more put together than I expected. Dark jeans, silk blouse, makeup done. "You look like you've got good news," I said, walking past her into the foyer. She laughed lightly. "Let's just say things are turning around." Mom came into the kitchen smiling. "Your sister's networking is paying off. She's got some consulting leads in New York." "Not quite a job yet," Nicole added quickly, "but something promising." I waited until after dinner. When everyone had eaten and the conversation turned casual, I set down my wine glass and cleared my throat. "We need to talk," I said, looking directly at Nicole. She blinked. "Okay." "Did you change the beneficiary on my life insurance policy?" The room froze. Mom looked from me to Nicole, confusion all over her face. "What are you talking about?" "You called Mutual First National and impersonated me. You used my information and changed the beneficiary to yourself. There's a recording." She held my gaze, her face tightening slightly. "You're being dramatic. It's wire fraud, it's identity theft, it's a federal crime." "Jesus, Rachel," she snapped, finally breaking. "Are you really going to sit there and act like I murdered someone?" "No," I said, keeping my tone even, "but you did commit a serious crime." Dad spoke up, hands raised slightly. "All right, let's calm down. Maybe there's been some kind of misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding," I interrupted. "She impersonated me. She changed a legal document involving a $500,000 financial instrument. She did it knowingly and with intent. You don't even have kids or a spouse. You don't need that money sitting there doing nothing. You act like you're some kind of untouchable gatekeeper." "I am a federal attorney," I said sharply. "You committed wire fraud against someone trained to prosecute wire fraud." Mom looked horrified. "You're not seriously going to press charges?" "I don't have a choice. The investigation is already active." Nicole stood up, chair scraping against the floor. "You're choosing your career over your family." "No," I said, standing as well. "You chose this. You picked up the phone and made that call. You forged my identity. You tried to manipulate a legal system you didn't understand, and now you're facing the consequences." She stormed out of the room, slamming the sliding door to the porch behind her. My parents stared at me like I was a stranger, as if I was the one who'd betrayed them. The following Monday, the arrest warrant was signed. Nicole Jordan was taken into custody outside of her rented co-working office in Foggy Bottom. She didn't resist, didn't argue, just quietly got into the black SUV parked at the curb as agents read her Miranda rights. I wasn't there, but I read the report. When they searched her laptop, they found a draft document titled Contingency Plan, RJ Insurance Proceeds. It was a spreadsheet, a budget, She had already started allocating the $500,000 she thought she'd be collecting in the event of my death. Debt payoff, travel, a small condo in Arlington, luxury wardrobe refresh. Not $1 to anyone else in our family, not a single note on taxes, not even a fund for emergencies. Just her, planning her future with money she was never meant to have. By the time the arraignment hearing was scheduled, Nicole had hired a criminal defense attorney, one of the mid-level ones who handle white-collar crime in D.C., someone I vaguely recognized from DOJ conference panels. The courtroom was quiet that day. Just the judge, the attorneys, the bailiff, and me in the back row, watching the first proceeding in what would be a very long and public legal process. The charges were read aloud. 1 count of wire fraud, 1 count of identity theft, 1 count of falsifying financial records for personal gain. Nicole didn't look at me once, not when she entered the room, not when the judge said her name, not when her attorney requested bail, and especially not when the prosecutor stated plainly that she had deliberately committed a financial crime against a federal employee with full knowledge of the consequences. The press got wind of the arrest within 48 hours. A headline appeared on a local digital crime blotter. DC woman charged with wire fraud in life insurance scam targeting own sister. It didn't take long for the story to spread. Most outlets didn't name me directly, standard privacy protection for federal employees involved in financial crimes, but they mentioned my agency, my role. Enough details that anyone in my professional circle could easily put 2 and 2 together. The following Monday, I found myself walking into the Treasury building and being greeted not with good mornings, but with looks, long, assessing glances from coworkers who suddenly viewed me as the person who brought federal charges against her own sibling.
"Hey," one colleague said awkwardly by the elevator. "Rough week?" I nodded, offering a tight smile. There wasn't much else to say. I was scheduled to testify before the grand jury the following month, but the U.S. Attorney's Office had already told me the odds of the case going to trial were low. The evidence was overwhelming. The phone records, the recorded call, the digital footprint from her email. And then there was the spreadsheet, her contingency plan. The defense attorney floated a plea deal 2 weeks later. It was a pretty standard offer for nonviolent white-collar crime. 54 months in federal prison, 3 years of supervised release, restitution to the insurance company, permanent disqualification from working in any fiduciary or financial services capacity. Nicole had 72 hours to accept or go to trial. She accepted in 36. No courtroom spectacle, no dramatic cross-examinations, no emotional breakdowns under oath. Just a guilty plea, entered quietly on a Tuesday morning, followed by a sentencing hearing scheduled for early spring. I didn't attend the plea hearing. I wasn't required to, and frankly, I didn't need to watch my sister admit in public that she had knowingly committed fraud against me. But I read the transcript. Her voice was described as measured, her answers short. She showed no emotion when the judge asked if she understood the charges or the consequences of pleading guilty. She did. She always had. Mom called me the day after the plea was entered. She didn't cry this time. Her tone was sharper, more resigned. "You could have stopped this. You didn't have to let it go this far." I reported identity theft to the appropriate authorities. I didn't let it go anywhere. The legal system took over. You knew what would happen. You knew how this would end. No, I corrected. Nicole knew. She made the calls. She forged the information. She crossed every line. And she did it all believing I wouldn't hold her accountable. There was a pause. She was desperate, Rachel. So are thousands of people. They don't all commit felonies. She didn't know you'd actually go through with it. That stuck with me longer than it should have. The idea that Nicole had counted not just on my silence, but on my loyalty. That she'd looked at me, her younger sister, her stable sibling, her boring government worker, and decided I was the safest person to betray. Because I wouldn't fight back? Because I'd protect the family image? Because I always did the responsible thing even when no one else did? That assumption, that underestimation, was more insulting than the crime itself. Sentencing took place in mid-April. This time I went. I sat alone in the second row, a few seats behind the prosecution table. Nicole walked into the courtroom wearing navy business attire, no orange jumpsuit. Pre-sentencing arrangements had allowed her to remain free on bond. Her attorney stood and made a final statement. He spoke about her previously clean record, her temporary financial hardship, her family pressures, her confusion about legal boundaries. I wanted to laugh. There was no confusion. Nicole had worked in marketing for nearly a decade. She'd sat in meetings about compliance, about data protection, about liability. She knew what financial fraud looked like. She just never imagined she'd be held accountable for it. The U.S. Attorney's Office didn't go easy. This was not an act of desperation, the prosecutor said, his voice calm but firm. It was calculated theft, targeted directly at a federal employee by someone who believed their familial relationship would shield them from consequences. The judge reviewed the charges and sentencing guidelines. He asked Nicole if she had anything to say before the sentence was handed down. She stood, looked toward the bench, then, briefly, towards me. I didn't think it would go this far. That was all. Not an apology, not an admission of guilt, just a passive, shallow lament about how far things had gone. As if this were a process that had spiraled on its own, rather than something she set in motion with a phone call, a lie, and a forged signature. The sentence was formalized. 4 years and 6 months in federal prison. 3 years supervised release. Full restitution to the insurance company and fines. Lifetime disqualification from any job involving fiduciary responsibility. The judge added one last note. Ms. Jordan's actions show a disturbing disregard for legal boundaries, personal ethics, and familial trust. Her background in corporate communications and her calculated use of private information demonstrate that this was not a lapse of judgment, but an intentional breach of federal law. Nicole was taken into custody that day. No last-minute appeals, no emotional breakdown, no goodbye to our parents. She was led out of the courtroom by 2 federal marshals, hands cuffed in front, her posture stiff and expression unreadable. I left before my parents could corner me in the hallway. They tried to call that night. I didn't pick up. The next morning, I returned to work. There was a note on my desk from Dana Weller, the investigator I'd worked with when everything first unfolded. You handled this like a professional. No special treatment. No shortcuts. You did the right thing. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt exhausted. Not just from the emotional weight of prosecuting a family member, but from years of being quietly underestimated, dismissed, told my job was cute, my salary modest, my life too structured to matter. Nicole hadn't just stolen my identity. She'd tried to steal my future.
And now she would spend the next 54 months sitting in a federal correctional facility in upstate New York, reading law books she'd ignored, attending fraud prevention classes she never thought she'd need, and preparing to re-enter a world where her sister was no longer her safety net. It took a long time for things to feel normal again. Even after the sentencing, the damage Nicole caused wasn't limited to my insurance policy or my professional life. There was emotional wreckage, too, confounded by the way my parents had responded. Not once had they called what she did by its real name: fraud, theft, betrayal. To them, it was still just a family misunderstanding, a well-intentioned mistake that spiraled too far. The weekend after sentencing, I received a card in the mail. No return address, but I recognized my mom's handwriting. "We hope one day you'll understand that what happened wasn't done out of malice, but desperation. Family has to look out for each other, even when mistakes are made. We love you, Mom and Dad." There was no mention of Nicole's crimes. No acknowledgement that I had been the victim. No apology. Just a soft-edged plea for forgiveness that made it sound like I was the one unwilling to cooperate. I didn't write back. Three months passed. Nicole was transferred from pre-sentencing detention to a minimum security federal facility in West Virginia. I received official confirmation through the Bureau of Prisons database. Her inmate profile listed her as nonviolent white-collar offender. No mention of the word family. Meanwhile, I continued my work in financial crimes. New cases came in: elder fraud, pension scams, synthetic identity schemes. My caseload was full again. My clearance was renewed without issue. My supervisors praised my professionalism during the entire ordeal. But there were still cracks that hadn't healed. Every now and then, a case would hit too close to home. A sibling who stole from another, a parent who emptied their child's college fund, and it would all come rushing back. The feeling of sitting at that dinner table, hearing Nicole proudly announce she'd committed fraud as if it were a clever family hack. 6 months after Nicole's sentencing, I got another call from my parents. I ignored it. Then a second call, then a third. Finally, a voicemail. "Nicole's counselor says she's doing well. She's in the restitution program. She wants to talk to you. Please don't shut her out forever." The message ended with my dad's voice, less angry this time, but still firm. "She's still your sister. She needs family support." Family support. That phrase had lost all meaning to me by then. Family support had been used to justify illegal access to my personal finances. Family support had been the excuse for every manipulation, every accusation that I was selfish, stingy, disloyal. And now it was being used again to imply I was the one causing harm by staying silent. But what never once said was, "Nicole hurt you. She committed felonies. She broke your trust." That part never made it into their version of events. I didn't respond to the voicemail. Instead, I spoke with my therapist, something I'd quietly started doing shortly after the case ended. "I'm not angry anymore," I told her during one session. "I'm just done pretending I'm okay with being disrespected." She nodded. Sometimes setting boundaries isn't about punishment. It's about self-preservation. That line stayed with me.
Because for years, I'd been the one who bent to keep the peace. I let them downplay my job. I let them ignore my degree. I let them decide how valuable my life was until Nicole decided to monetize it. Never again. It's been over a year now. Nicole is still serving her sentence. She'll be eligible for early release in a little over 2 years if she completes her rehabilitation programs and maintains good behavior. She sent me 3 letters. The first was a non-apology apology. The second was a full-blown justification for what she did. The third was quieter, reflective. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I didn't believe there'd be consequences. Or maybe I didn't care. I convinced myself you'd never push back, that you'd always be the one who handled things quietly. I was wrong. I understand that now. That one I read twice. I didn't respond. Some apologies don't need answers. They just need time to sink in. My life moved on. I renewed my lease in Arlington. I got a promotion and joined a cross-agency financial fraud task force. The same insurance company that Nicole tried to exploit invited me to speak at one of their conferences on internal fraud protection and family-related financial crime. I almost said no, but then I remembered what Nicole had said at sentencing. I didn't think it would go this far. That's the problem. Most people never think it will go that far. They think family makes them immune. They believe trust is something to be used, not earned. But the truth is, identity theft isn't less criminal when it's committed by someone with your same last name. Wire fraud doesn't hurt less because the voice on the other end of the call once shared your childhood. A betrayal wrapped in a smile is still betrayal. At the end of that conference talk, during Q&A, someone asked me, "What do you tell victims of fraud when it's someone close, someone they loved?" I paused, then answered honestly. You tell them that love doesn't excuse criminal behavior, that family loyalty shouldn't be weaponized, and that protecting your boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. Nicole's story isn't unusual. Every year, thousands of people are defrauded by their own family members, siblings, parents, children, but few of those stories end with prosecution. Fewer still end with real accountability. Mine did, not because I wanted to punish my sister, but because I understood something she never did. Trust isn't something you steal, it's something you protect.